Why do two people the exact same age look and feel a decade apart, even when their diets and their exercise are nearly identical? One seems to glide through their 70s with a sharp memory and a sense that life is still opening up. The other has slowly gone quiet, distant, old before their time. Is it only the body that decides this? Or is there something happening between the ears, something we never measure on a blood test, that determines how young we actually stay? What we now know from decades of research is this: the mind is not a passenger in the aging process. It is a driver. The way you think, the way you respond to stress, the way you connect with other people, and the story you tell yourself about getting older, these things physically shape your brain. And the encouraging news is that these are habits. They can be learned at any age. Today, we explore 7 psychological habits that keep people young after 60. None cost money. None require a gym. They require only awareness and a little practice. Stay with me until the very end, because the 7th habit is the one most people are getting completely wrong, and it may be quietly aging them faster than anything else they do. Think of your brain not as a fixed machine that slowly wears out, but as a garden. What you plant in it, the thoughts you repeat, the people you surround yourself with, the challenges you give it, determines what grows. A garden left untended does not just stay the same, it gets overgrown. The same is true of the mind after 60. The brain is capable of growing new connections well into old age. Scientists call this neuroplasticity, but it only happens when the brain is asked to grow, when it is challenged, when it is connected, when it has a reason to stay engaged. The habits we are about to cover are the ways healthy older adults keep asking their brain to grow. Let us begin. The first psychological habit is the one most strongly linked to a younger brain. Keep learning. Not passively, not just watching television or scrolling, actively learning something new, on purpose, a little every day. Here is why this matters physically. When you learn something genuinely new, a language, an instrument, a new recipe, how to use a new device, your brain is forced to build new pathways between neurons. That is neuroplasticity in action. The alternative, the comfortable repetition of the same routines, asks almost nothing of the brain, and a brain that is not asked to grow begins to shrink its unused connections. This is not about becoming a scholar. It is about staying curious. One of my patients in her late 70s decided she wanted to learn to paint. She had never painted in her life. 2 years later, she tells me it is the single best thing she has done for her mind. Not because of the paintings, but because of how the learning itself made her feel alert, engaged, alive again. That is the point. The subject does not matter. The effort does. Pick something that genuinely interests you, something just hard enough to stretch you, and do it most days. Curiosity is not a trait you either have or lose. It is a habit you feed. The second habit is one of the most powerful and the most quietly neglected. Stay connected to other people, meaningfully, not just casually. Loneliness is not simply an unpleasant feeling. It is now recognized as a genuine health risk, comparable in its effects to smoking or obesity. Chronic loneliness raises stress hormones. It disturbs sleep. It is linked to a faster rate of cognitive decline and a higher risk of memory problems over the years. The body reads isolation as a threat, even when we are safe. And here is the subtle part. Being around people is not the same as being connected to them. You can live in a busy building and still feel entirely alone. What protects the mind is real connection. A conversation where you feel heard, a shared laugh, a sense that someone knows you and cares. This matters more, not less, after 60, because the natural social circles of earlier life, work, children at home, school friends, begin to thin. The people who age youngest are often the ones who deliberately rebuild those circles. They join a walking group. They volunteer. They make a point of calling someone instead of waiting for the phone to ring. Connection is a habit you can rebuild at any age, one conversation at a time. The third habit has a name in other cultures, but it is a universal human need. Purpose. A reason to get up in the morning that is bigger than the morning itself. Researchers studying some of the longest-lived communities on Earth noticed something they all shared. The language of those communities has a word for the reason you wake up in the morning. When you have a purpose, caring for a grandchild, tending a garden, volunteering, finishing a project, passing on a skill to someone younger, your body responds. Purpose lowers stress. It gives structure to your days. It keeps the mind oriented forward instead of drifting backward into the past. And purpose does not have to be grand. It does not have to change the world. It only has to matter to you. I have seen patients transform simply by finding one thing they were responsible for, one thing that would not happen unless they did it. That feeling of being needed by a person, a plant, a cause, a community is one of the most protective forces we have against the mental decline that so many people assume is inevitable. Find your reason, even a small one, especially a small one. Before we reach the final habits, I want to pause and speak to you directly for a moment. If this is making sense to you, a like genuinely helps more people over 60 find this kind of practical guidance, and it lets me know I should keep making more of it. Now, habit 4 is the one almost nobody talks about, and it may be the most important of all. The fourth habit is the one most people have absorbed without ever realizing it. Refuse the negative story about aging. From a very young age, we are surrounded by a particular message that getting older means decline, weakness, forgetfulness, invisibility. We hear it in jokes, we see it in advertising, and over decades, we quietly begin to believe it. This matters because the story you tell yourself physically changes how you age. Researchers have found something remarkable. People who hold positive beliefs about aging, who see their later years as a time of possibility, not decline, tend to live longer, years longer. And people who have internalized the negative beliefs tend to decline faster, even when their health at the start was identical. The belief itself becomes a kind of medicine or a kind of poison. Think about the small voice in your head when you forget a name or feel tired. Does it say, "I'm getting old, this is just how it is"? Or does it say, "I'm tired today, I'll rest and I'll be sharper tomorrow"? The first voice makes the decline real. The second voice leaves room for recovery. You do not have to pretend aging is not real, but you do have control over the story you tell about it. Catch the negative voice. Question it. Replace it with something truer and kinder. This is not positive thinking. It is mental hygiene. The fifth habit is small, fast, and supported by more research than almost any other mental practice. Gratitude. Practice deliberately, not just felt occasionally. Here is why it works. The human brain has a natural bias toward noticing what is wrong. This kept our ancestors alive. A threat you missed could kill you, while a blessing you missed just meant a slightly worse day. But in modern life, that bias no longer serves us. It leaves the aging mind focused on loss. What the body can no longer do, who is no longer here, what has changed. Gratitude is the deliberate counterweight. It is the practice of noticing what is still good, still present, still working. And when you practice it regularly, a few minutes a day, naming 2 or 3 things you are genuinely thankful for, the effect is measurable. It lowers stress hormones. It improves sleep. It shifts the brain's default focus over time so that what you notice begins to change. I tell my patients to make it concrete. Not, "I'm grateful for my family," but "I'm grateful my daughter called me this morning." Specificity makes it real. You can do this while making tea, before bed, or on a short walk. It costs nothing and takes minutes. And it quietly reorients the mind toward what is growing, rather than what is fading. The sixth habit is the one you can feel the moment you see it in someone. Stay playful. Keep a sense of humor. Welcome novelty instead of avoiding it. Somewhere along the way, many adults begin to believe that seriousness is a requirement of age, that play is for children, and that trying new things is for the young. But play is not a luxury. It is one of the ways the brain stays flexible. Laughter genuinely reduces stress, lowers blood pressure, and strengthens the immune system. Trying something new, a new route home, a new food, a new hobby, keeps the brain in a state of gentle discovery rather than rigid habit. The people who age youngest are often the ones who still laugh easily, who are curious about a stranger, who say yes to something unfamiliar. They have not avoided hardship. They have simply refused to let hardship make them hard. So let yourself be a little silly. Watch something funny. Play with a child or a grandchild on their level. Do one small thing differently today, just to remind your brain that the world is still new. This is not childishness. It is wisdom. The wisdom to know that staying light is what keeps you young. Now we reach the seventh habit, the one I told you surprises most people, and the one that may be quietly aging them faster than anything else. It is the habit of the mind that gets stuck. As the years pass, the past grows longer, and it pulls harder. Many people over 60 find their thoughts drifting more and more into what was, reliving old losses, old mistakes, old versions of themselves. There is a natural comfort in the past. It is known. It is safe. But the mind was not built to live there. When you spend your mental energy replaying what has already happened, you rob the present moment of your attention. And the present moment is the only place life is actually happening. This is not about denying your past. Your memories are part of you. It is about where you choose to live. The healthiest older adults I know have learned to visit the past without moving into it. They feel the feelings, honor what was, and then they come home to today. One of my patients described it beautifully. She told me, "I used to spend my evenings replaying everything I'd lost. Now I spend them noticing what's still here." That single shift changed her sleep, her mood, and the look in her eyes. So notice when your mind slides backward. Gently, without judgment, bring it back to what is in front of you, the light in the room, the person beside you, the next small thing you get to do. The past is where you came from. It is not where you have to stay. Here is what I want you to take from all of this. Your body does age. That is real, and no habit in the world will stop it. But how young you feel, how sharp you stay, how much life still feels open, that is shaped more than most people ever realize. By the habits of your mind. Keep learning. Stay connected. Hold on to your purpose. Refuse the negative story. Practice gratitude. Stay playful. And live in the day you are actually in. These are not complicated. They are not expensive. They are simply choices, made small and often. And the beautiful part is that you can begin any one of them today. So of the 7 habits we have shared, which one do you feel you most need right now? Your answer may be the very thing someone else needed to hear. If you found this helpful, please give it a like, share it with someone you love, and subscribe for more practical guidance on staying young, in mind and body, after 60. Because most people are never told these things, and they make all the difference. Why do 2 people the same age feel a decade apart, even with nearly identical diets and exercise? The answer is between the ears. In this video, we explore 7 psychological habits that keep people young after 60. Lifelong learning, meaningful connection, a sense of purpose, refusing the negative story about aging, gratitude, playfulness, and the habit of the mind that most people get wrong. None require money or a gym, only awareness and practice. Which of the 7 habits do you need most right now? Tell me in the comments. I read every one.